Yeah, so I took it upon myself, as I said, only because 12, we are bombarded with all kind of information about Messiah, and I like to our class to be informed what kind of Messiah people are talking about. We need to decipher the information and to know how to address it. So there are basically rabbinical Messiah, mystical Messiah, and today I want to finish, God willing, our talk about mystical Messiah. And we started last time, and I want to continue, but before we do that, I like to summarize, to sum up some of the information. So whoever listened to the tape and he hasn't been there before will know what we are talking about. So uh, at the end of the first millennium, we said, year 1000 AD, Judaism has already developed uh, two types of Messiah, recognition of a rabbinical Messiah and a mystical Messiah was quite developed at the end of the first millennium, 1000, or Rambam time. He lived in 1130, 50, something like that. So rabbinical Messiah, if we sum up the definition of what is rabbinical Messiah, he arrives, is supposed to arrive at the end of the redemption process. A mystical Messiah is the opposite. He'll come from heaven to begin redemption. So what is redemption? Redemption is defined by the Torah from in Egypt. So in Egypt, the model is exile from Egypt in English in Egypt. The exile had been prophesied to Abraham 400 years later. So there was a certain amount of time allocated for the exile, prophesied by God. And on that very night, on the Exodus night, the Torah emphasized בעצם היום הזה, in this very night for 400 years, exactly when the prophecy ended, Hashem himself redeemed Israel. There was no Saraf, no Malach, even Moses didn't do it. Hashem did it. Redeem saving us from the hand of Pharaoh. That was the redemption. Redemption is releasing Israel from the hand of the oppressor. Then, the next step, God went on to plant Israel in the land of Israel. Like a tree, we would bring good fruit, which is David and the son of David, as Bilam foresees. And there is no set up time for that part. So there was never a time set up for the Messiah arrival, whereas there was time was allocated for the length of the exile until redemption, but not the next step from redemption on. How long will it take to bring Messiah and David? Now that happened again in the second exile, in time of Jeremiah. I'm just repeating what we learned in short. So there was a limited time allocated, foretold by Jeremiah for the exile. After 70 years, you will come back. And you will come back released by the oppressor, by the Persian king, Xerxes, who released them. He said, I give you the license to come back to return to Israel. He talked to Ezra, to Nehemiah, and to start building the Beit HaMikdash, the temple. So there was again limited time set up for the exile, and it ended. The redemption came by a Gentile, like in the first from the oppressor, like in the first exile, but no time was set up for the Messiah himself to come. How long will it take the second stage from redemption on? Once they are planted again in the land of Israel, how long will it take them now, the second time, how long will it take them to develop David, good fruit of David, and of course the son of David? So they built the temple, they built Jerusalem, they repeated all the steps of the first redemption, like from Joshua to David. It took 400 years. So they repeated it much faster, but and they had Jerusalem built, the temple was also built, but it didn't have yet David, and it didn't have the son of David. And when they didn't have a complete redemption. So there was a missing step, which is redemption. Redemption from whom? From Persia, from Greek, and from Rome. So since everything was already set up or built, now whoever coming claiming that he is Messiah, so the common answer was from the rabbis, well, go on, redeem us from the end of Rome, so we might recognize you. You may recognize this line from the New Testament. They told a person complained about the first case. So Rabbi Gamliel says, well, let him redeem us from Rome, so we will know. So the step of redemption was actually the final step that was missing, beside the house of David, which, according to Rabbi Akiva, may not be so important to be the lineage itself, but according to Bar Kokhba revolt, here is Bar Kokhba revolting. He started building Beit HaMikdash in the year 135 AD, and Rabbi Akiva recognized him as a Messiah, although Bar Kokhba was definitely not from the house of David, but he had Jerusalem built up, or starting to build up, and he had a third temple building up, and he had some independence from Rome. Well, Rabbi Akiva had no choice but to say this might be a Messiah, because redemption, the stage of redemption, is now being fulfilled. It happened a false idea, and it ended up with tremendous tragedy. Anyhow, for 420 years of the Second Temple, since redemption was not complete or missing, so the issue of Messiah didn't even play a role in any politics. The Maccabee revolt, there are so much stories about the Second Temple and movement, and so. None of them actually were dealing with the messianic aspiration itself. None of them came, no leader came claiming that he is Messiah beside the last, at the time of the temple destruction, and all of them were false. Many of them were crucified by Rome, and they all were failure. Now, year 70, to make things short, the temple is destroyed, and the people of Israel now go to the third exile. And now, unlike the second, the first and the second. Here we have no prophecy about either redemption, no prophet prophesied about the third time, and there was certainly no prophecy about the forthcoming of the Messiah. Both those steps are left in limbo. Actually, be left for us to fulfill, if you want. And there is a debate in the Mishnah when in the year, soon after the destruction, when how long the third exile will last. We don't have prophecy, so how should we relate to it? So Rabbi Yoshua said, oh yes, there is a time allocated, but we will know when time will come. Hashem himself will redeem us. We will know. But there is certainly a time. Don't be despaired, he said to the people of Israel. The redemption is coming, but we will know when it comes. We cannot predict it. We cannot use any message from the prophet. Nobody ever talked about it or prophesied. And his opponent in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer, said, no. The third redemption will come pending on our tshuva. Each one of them has verses, sources to base himself. The debate goes on. But basically, these are the two approaches that pertain to the third exile, which lasts till nowadays. We are still conceptually under the third exile. It has not ended yet. So this debate between Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Eliezer is often taught in every yeshiva in Israel. If you ask a yeshiva student about the redemption, the answer will give you, this is a debate in the Mishnah, referring you to this debate. Now, parallel to these two rabbis, mysticism started to grow up, to enter Judaism. As situation gotten worse, first after Rome, then after Byzantine especially, mystical literature proliferated. We talk about the literature of the palaces, where the authors describe ascending to heaven, wandering into the palaces. Beautiful literature, but for our purpose, the author or authors in plural meet as they wander in the palaces. In the number 7, they meet now the Messiah waiting. And they ask him, why aren't you coming, our master, our rabbi? So he says, today I would come, only if you repent. Here is quoting Rabbi Eliezer. You all depend on your repentance, and I'll come down. But besides mentioning Rabbi Eliezer's view, here we have a notion of a mystical Messiah, already set up in heaven, ready to come down anytime, without us, without being preceded by those steps of redemption. He come down fresh. He can come down in any place, even in outside Israel. He will come down from heaven ready to take us to Israel, to plant us back into Israel, to rebuild the society, to rebuild the Sanhedrin. I'm going step by step according to Amida prayer. Rebuild Jerusalem and rebuild the temple, restore David's house. So he will come down and he, from heaven, he will start the process. So here we have now a mystical Messiah who come to start the process, rather than in a middle prayer who will come at the end. And that had a lot of appeal, obviously, to those who were suffering. In a reality where no one can even foresee any coming back of for independence of Jews in Israel, in the land of Israel. At the time when Jews are compelled actually to leave the land under Byzantine and persecution by the Arabs, by the Crusaders. So, of course, the mystical Messiah view takes stronger hold on the Jewish imagination rather than the Amida prayer. And as Kabbalah stepped in, we studied the last time, we mentioned Book of Yetzirah, Book of Bahir. Mysticism also enhanced this mystical view and also introduced now a new thing, the gematria, which means playing with the numerical value of each word to unlock secrets of the Torah. That's a really mysticism. And it became more and more popular by the Book of Yetzirah. And as it became more and more popular, people start to calculate the time when will the Messiah come down? When will God release him? God is a real redeemer. Everybody knew that. Like in Egypt, God is going to release to redeem us. How would he accomplish it? By sending down Messiah, and the Messiah will take us to the land of Israel. The Messiah will rebuild Jerusalem and so on. So we need to pray to God to release that Messiah. And we can also, because Rabbi Yoshua had said that time has been fixed up for that already, so we can maybe calculate the time. A flora of calculation came about from the 4th, 6th, 7th century. Each calculation that came up with a certain time. They were sure that this is this year and this is this month, Messiah is coming. Obviously, people took advantage of that. False Messiah followed as early as 705 in Isfahan, Persia, and then in 720 in the land of Israel, and about 1100 so on in Babylon. Each false Messiah coming because of those calculations. And it drew a lot of followers because of those calculations. People heard about those calculations years ahead, and they were expecting the Messiah to come down and say, follow me. And if a Messiah, a charismatic guy, came and said, follow me, and he is such a great guy, he knows Kabbalah, well-dressed, mighty person maybe, very naturally charismatic leader, he could easily draw after him a lot of followers, and trying to promising them that, oh, I will now go redeem you from the hand of the oppressor. I will now overcome the king of Persia. I will come the Egyptian caliphate. I will do this and this and that. Of course, everything was ended up with simply destruction. And this age destruction, followed by disappointment and crying, and you can imagine. Situation came so bad when when the Rambam came, his Rambam own brother perished in such a revolt. So the Rambam took upon himself to set down once for all the rabbinical approach to the Messiah. In his book of law, he quote only the rabbinical approach, and he said that nobody knows exactly, nobody can tell ahead of time when the Messiah or redemption will come. All calculations are false. And if people try to attach the end of time prophecies, calamities, Gog and Magog war, this earthquake, calamities, the prophecies of the Zechariah and this and that prophet about the end of time, if you try to attach it to the Messiah, you are wrong. You don't know what you're talking about, because first of all, it's a mistake. Secondly, even those prophecies themselves, nobody can tell exactly what they are, if they are allegoric vision or the real vision. Leave those prophecies alone. And curse will be the one who come up with calculation. Why curse? Because the only thing you can cause is destruction, disappointment. What should we do? Stick to the rabbinical, to the Torah, to Balaam prophecy. Stick to what the Rabbi called it in Amida prayer, and the function of the Messiah will be not to teach mankind the seven commandments. And as we say, matter of fact, the book of Yetzirah, as we mentioned last time, plays a tremendous Kabbalistic importance to the seven commandments. We can repeat that section of the book of Yetzirah. I think it's very important for the Noahide to know that. So that's a separate topic. So now we are at the time of the Rambam, who everyone accept, mostly, as a posek, as a halachic authority, although in their heart, facing terrible realities of the 11th century, 12th century, crusaders, so many Jewish community destroyed, people committed suicide rather than convert. Terrible history, terrible time of history to the Jewish people. So on the face, you go to the synagogue, you pray Amida prayer, but your heart long to Messiah to come from heaven and once for all put a stop on this slavery to the nations around us. We don't want to live in a ghetto for the rest of human history. We want to get out of the ghetto. We want to be normal people again. So here the memory or the idea of the Messiah, of the mystical Messiah, is brewing and filling the heart of the people. Whereas on the face, they just say the Abida prayer, the classical rabbinical one, which does not cater to those feelings. Let's continue until the 13th century, when the situation became even worse. And I think that it's described very nicely by the book of, by the James Carroll, in the book that I mentioned to you, Constantine's sword, where he talked about this period of time in Spain, and he described the appearance of the book of Zohar that suddenly was born in Spain at that terrible depression or part of history of the Jewish people, as Jewish people who actually enjoyed quite freedom in Spain for hundreds of years. They were part of the community, they were part of the government, they developed yeshivot, they developed Torah. Suddenly they are converted by force to Christianity. They are chased out of the community. They cannot take place as Jews in the government anymore. Business is destroyed. They need to leave the country. Not yet totally like in 1492, but we were talking in the 13th century, the end of the 1250s, 60s, 70s. And this lowest status of the Jews in history, as James Carroll said, because everywhere they couldn't flee either to Europe, to Amsterdam, or to any other place. Nowhere they were welcomed. They couldn't flee to the east. There was no way you could travel to the Ottoman Empire to escape. You were caught. And in this lowest status of the Jews, a book came out, exploded into the Jewish milieu, into the mind and the heart of the Jews, and the book of Zohar. This tremendous poetry of the Zohar, which is really unbelievable, beautiful book, erupted. No one knows exactly who wrote it. It probably was, the experts said it was probably written by many. It was not just one book, it was composed by many Kabbalistic rabbis in France, in Providence, Providence, yeah, it's called the lower part of France, in northern Spain area, that many Jews lived at that time in that part. That theory, another theory said, yeah, it was hidden. The book said that it was written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the 2nd century. But nobody believed that. Regardless, the origin of the author, which is the book himself, is a tremendous insight to the Torah, written in poetical way. You need to know Torah in order to appreciate the depth of it. But to our purpose, when we talk about Messiah, it also introduced the Messiah as never ever before. Remember, the Rambam says, okay, the Rambam actually made a concession. Even if the mystical Messiah is true, and Hashem will send him down to start, yet, he writes, we will never know about him. We will never recognize him. In order for us to recognize him as the Messiah, he needs first to fulfill all the steps. He writes explicitly, he may walk in our street unrecognized. He will look like a simple man, but he will achieve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. He will be a leader. Once he builds a temple and Jerusalem, wow, that's all we need. Then we will recognize him. Recognize him doesn't mean I need to bow to him or pray to him or think he's going to atone for my sins. He's simply a leader, talented leader, as Isaiah prophesied. And in fact, his goal is not only to redeem Israel, but to turn around and teach the mankind the 7 commandments and the kingship of Hashem. But we will recognize this only after he has accomplished. And so again, it's true that he may send down from heaven to start, but we cannot call him as such until he has fulfilled. Here comes the Zohar and says, no, no, no. The Zohar describes the Messiah in such a bombastic way that no one, when Messiah comes, no one will have a mistake. Everyone will recognize him. How? I'll give you an example. The Zohar will come one day at a certain time, fixed time. So I'll give you even the numbers. The first time ever that the numbers are given to the time of the Messiah arrival. Of course, nobody can understand what the numbers are. There's a debate, but there are numbers. In the year such and such and such, a big star will arise in the east. The star will be so great that sun will be a small digit compared to this star. And along with him, 7 more smaller stars will show up in the east. And there will be a war. The war will take such and such time, prefixed time. And the big star will overcome the 7 smaller stars. And it will disappear. After a certain time, it will come back, the big star, this time accompanied by herds of angels and chariots and seraphim and wheels, and everything you learn from Yechezkel prophecy will come next time in Messiah. And yes, you can, although he will come at a certain time, but you can enhance his coming, make him come in sooner if you repent, and if you learn Kabbalah, and especially the book of Zohar. Now, experts in Harvard University who read that, scratch their hand and say, oh yeah, this is a mystical Judaism. They took it from, an expert may say, oh, in India, they also speak about the star coming. Oh, in this part of the Far East, they speak about 7 small stars. Of course, you need a poetry, you need an audience. And the audience should be familiar with your symbols in the poem. And obviously, when the book of Zohar speaks about the big star in the east, he referred to Bilam, who called David star of Jacob. And who are the 7? And it will disappear and come back, because we need two stages. We need the star of David, and we need the son of David. So when the son of David comes, the final king of Messiah, he will be accompanied by chariots, star, of course. So there is a huge poetic description of something we already know. And the 7 small stars, you can say, are the 7 commandments of Noah. And we can he will come at a fixed time, like Rabbi Yoshua said in the Mishnah. Whereas we can still make him come earlier, as by tshuva, as Rabbi Eliezer said in the Mishnah, and by learning Torah and Kabbalah. So when you look at it again, this is a good example how the difference between a person who knows what the background is, how to relate to the book of Zohar, from an outsider, which universities are full of them, and they spend time and time wondering where the mysticism came from. It's nothing but I'll call it enhancing, ballooning everything we know about Messiah. But the most important part here, compared to the Rambam, indeed, there was a chidush here, a new thing, that Messiah will not be shy. We will recognize him right away. And number two, we can enhance his coming. We can do something to make him coming earlier by learning Torah and Zohar and ascetic life. This actually made a huge impact on Judaism after the 13th century. The book slowly grew in recognition and readership. And 100, 200 years later, it was a household name. And everyone was reading it and waiting for this Messiah to come, this prophecy of the book of Zohar will be fulfilled. It became so holy. No book so successful, no book ever became so recognized as holy as a prophet, almost to the status of a prophet, as the book of Zohar. Many poskim, halachic authorities who were actually looking for source of this law or that law, they use the book of Zohar as a base to put out the decision of halachic decision, which is unbelievable, because no other book was ever used for that, beside the Torah or the prophet. So the Zohar was elevated in the eyes of the people to the mind of the prophecy of holy, not because of the Messiah, not at all, but because every page of it is holy. As I told you, when you have a problem with understanding a Torah, a verse, and you wander around, you read this and this and this commentary, then after a few days, you open up the Zohar, wow, you get the answer right away. So it's a holy book. Now, let's move on. And in the remaining time, I want to address 3 points. I want to address, we don't have time to discuss the 1,000 years of history now, but I want to mention to you the Ari HaKadosh, the Holy Ari in Tzefat. Now, point number 2, I want to mention to you the false Messiah of Shabtai Tzvi. And the third point I want to mention, God willing, in the 15 minutes that I have now, the false calculation of the last false calculation ever made about the Messiah in the year 1777. And why I'm going to mention that, because it has change Jewish perception forever, and that is a source of religious Zionism and a source of Hasidism as well. So year 1777, that's the third step I want to mention. All of them related to false calculations. So the first one is Ari HaKadosh. So remember the book of Zohar was published at the end of 13th century. Now, in the year 1492, the Jews are expelled finally from Spain. Such a drastic end of long Jewish presence in a peninsula, ended up with all Jews, not even one, left in the entire peninsula. With that tragedy, a group of Kabbalistic authorities ended up living in the year of Tzfat. Tzfat is a small town northern of the Sea of Galilee. Beautiful place. I used to go there every summer with my late mother and my family. Like we go here to resort. This is a beautiful, very good wind, cool place, and beautiful scenery, and a lot of things to do. Riding, walking, reading, but beautiful place. But for the Kabbalists, it was close to the place where Messiah should come. Messiah should have come in the Galilee, not far from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai cave, Mirol, which is walking distance from the city of Tzfat. Now, among the Kabbalistic expert was a person, young fellow named Ari. Ari Lion is a shortened acronym for Aryeh Luria, Yitzhak Luria. He developed, he elevated Kabbalah to a level unheard before. But that's not our purpose now, to discuss the Kabbalistic aspect of Ari. What's important for us is that those people who were expelled from Spain, and they were aching, and they were wondering, what's going on here? Why the Messiah is not coming? Where is redemption? What should we do in order to bring you, or to shorten the redemption time, the exile time? And then Ari HaKadosh said, why should we shorten the exile time? He told to his disciples. You don't understand, he said to his disciples. Redemption is not coming because God, the Shekhinah, wants us to be exiled. Want us to wander in the world, north, east, south, and west, and to redeem not us, redeem the broken sparks of holiness all over the world. So whenever we establish a Jewish community, Torah community, we not only impact our neighbors, we redeem holy sparks, Kabbalistic sparks that fell out in that part of the world. Now the Kabbalistic Lurianic Kabbalah explain how did it came about. How was it that those holy sparks are dispersed all over the universe? That's part of the Kabbalah that we develop. But it gave a comfort to the Jews now who are still in exile. You know, we fulfill a function. We are there on purpose. And here comes the song, Faratzta, you should break to The Chabad people still sing it today. You should spread to the west, Yama, Bakedma, east, Tzafona, north, and Daroma, and east and south. Famous song we sing and dance everywhere. We don't understand where it came from. It came from that view. The Jews, the Shekhinah is aching, and she is with us when we are in exile. She wanted with us to collect those holy sparks. So the Messiah suddenly is rendered to, well, not so important figure anymore. Exile itself takes so long because it is important for God. It must be important for God. It is, we are the servant of God that Isaiah prophesied, the beaten one, the spitting one, but we are the servant of God. We are the one who will do his job everywhere. Under this pretext, everything changed. But reality also changed. Things got even worse. Can you imagine? After the expulsion of Spain, after all this terrible situation over centuries, now Jews in Ukraine suffered even more ever before. First of all, a new calculation came about. Calculation of the Rabbi of the Messiah, which was set up for the year 1650. Tafchet, 48, 1648. Tafchet. Taf is 400, Chet is 8. In the Jewish calendar is Tafchet. And in the general, in the common calendar is 1648. Actually, 300 years before the establishment of Israel. The establishment of Israel is 1948. This is 1648. Easy to remember. So in 1648, all the calculations showed point out on one definite number. 1648. Here is the Messiah coming, for sure. Sign up as all the master of Kabbalah. They went over and over and over on the calculation, over and over on this verse and that verse. They piled it up, it came all with the same number. And it has just happened, this terrible war in Ukraine, in Poland, the uprising of Khmelnytsky, the Tatars, the peasant who fought against the master of the Polish royalty, the owner of the land, the terrible war that caused hundreds of thousands of casualties, Gentile casualties, terrible ferocities, as described by the historian. Both sides attacked the Jews, who actually had no part in it. The slaughtering of the Jews was rampant from both sides. At least 150,000 people perished, about maybe 500,000 wounded. It's terrible atrocities, hundreds of communities destroyed. That's the year 1648, exactly when the Messiah was supposed to come. No wonder that under such a bad situation, the charismatic guy, Reb Shabtai Tzvi, showed up. And this guy was extremely versed in Kabbalah, and also a beautiful person, beautiful voice. He knew how to behave. He really believed that he is a Messiah, and he had a prophet with him. I don't want to go to detail. He swept Europe like fire, and Jews followed him by the thousands, even the greatest rabbis. All that ended up with him being forced to convert to Islam, and that's the end of the story. Leaving millions of Jews disappointed, crying, devastation. The followers, many Jews followed him and also converted to Islam. And that's the end of the story from my point right now. I just wanted to show the calculation can Rambam worries, the Rambam writing, warning us not to follow those calculations, really came out true. And when we disregard them, we ended up with terrible atrocities on our own. We bring our own head. So, but you think Jews learn from it. Oh, no, no, no. Year 17, the passion to see a mystical Messiah is so great that the year 1700, another book was published in Israel, and this time pointing on 1777 as a time of Messiah coming. And again, this time supported by all the Kabbalistic expert signed up on his book, was published around 1700. So there are 70 years, the book was published 70 years before the foreseeing time. 70 years for Jews to flock to Israel, to attempt to immigrate to Israel, to meet the Messiah. Now, you understand, traveling at that time was terrible, dangerous. People lost their life. People had to walk. People were drowned. 25 ships were drawn in the Black Sea, besides many other ships drawn in the Mediterranean. It might have taken you months and months to get to the land of Israel. And when you got there, the land was barren, poor, desolated, swamps. No Palestinian nation, as Mark Twain writes. Empty of people. Jerusalem, only 20,000 people living in Jerusalem. The capital of the area was Ramle. It was considered a far, far district in the Ottoman Empire that no one had any interest in it. Malaria, yellow fever, children dying by the thousands. Yet people flocked. They established yeshiva, they learned Torah, and they didn't come to Israel to build it. They came here to prepare themselves for the Messiah. So they learned Torah, they learned Kabbalah, the Zohar. They settled in Tiberia, in Jerusalem, and in Hebron. That's all, within walls. No one came out from the wall to develop anything. And as the year 1777 approached, the fever increased, many more came, many more died. The founder of a Hasidic movement, Baal Shem Tov, attempted to go, 1750, he couldn't make it. And but he sent a group of disciples. Hasidic immigration groups came to Israel to welcome the Messiah. And the opponent of Hasidim, the Gaon Vilna Gaon, who opted more for learning rather than singing and dancing, like Hasidim. So the Gaon Vilna was also Kabbalistic expert. He also prepared for this mystical Messiah. In the years, here you see, year 77, Messiah didn't come, but he thought he would come at 7081. So in 1779, he left Vilna. He made deposit of money to go to the land of Israel, and he wanted to write a new Shulchan Aruch, law of code, just before Messiah will come. So when Messiah will come, he will have God can give him a book of Torah, law, the last word, that this will be lasting forever. That's what he had dreamed. In short, year 77 passed by, Messiah is not come, didn't come. 1781 passed by, Messiah didn't come. This time the disappointment was such great that it actually put an end to two things. End of calculations and end of learning the Bible, the prophet. You go now to any yeshiva, Hasidic or non-Hasidic, they don't learn the prophet. They don't quote you Obadiah, Isaiah, because they are afraid that people come out with calculations. So this ended up this trend. Another thing, I make things very short, the Hasidic part almost abandoned even talking much about the mystical Messiah for the nation. They replace it with the figure of the tzaddik. The tzaddik is a small Messiah for his own community, and he can live like the Ari Kadosh said. He can live west, in Brooklyn, in north, in east, and west. We can be redeemed by this tzaddik everywhere we live. We need to collect the spark of holiness everywhere. So this is Chabad. This is approach of ultra Hasidic group even today in Israel. That's what they believe. But they will never do it again. They will never calculate. The Gaon of Vilna is more interesting. He's a guy that all his life is a master Kabbalistic guy. You read his explanation to the book of Yetzirah, you fall on the floor. This guy knows it. He calculated it. Wow. You read it, you really stayed in awe. So this Kabbalistic guy who expected the mystic Mashiach to come. You already deposited money to go to Israel to welcome him. When he didn't come, he underwent a metamorphosis. For the first time in his life, the Vilna Gaon opened a small yeshiva next door to him. Only 20 students, elite. For the first time in his life, he left his home to teach in this yeshiva. And what did he teach? Not the Shulchan Aruch, not just Torah. He taught the law of agriculture in the land of Israel. The law of Shemitah for the 7 years, how to bring top tide, how to calculate, how to treat the vegetation, what to do, all this. The Talmud is full of that. So this student learned it, and he told the students, you learn it, you go to Israel to establish agricultural community. You are not going there to learn Yeshiva and Kabbalah. You go out of the wall, you establish communities, and to create, you build Jerusalem, you build it. You will bring the Messiah. In other words, you went back to Rambam teaching, to the Shmones, or to the Amida prayer. After he passed away, 500 families of this small yeshiva went on block, Aliyah to Eretz Israel. They came out of the war, the first time they were. They bought land unheard of before. They really bought land in Israel. They dried up. Everything was swamps, burned. They dried it up, and they established the first agricultural community called what? Petach Tikva. Many of you know where Petach Tikva is. It's now a suburb of Tel Aviv. Or it's a town for itself, but it's east of Tel Aviv, almost a suburb of Tel Aviv. And there, they cultivated the land, and the first Shemitah year came. You should have seen celebration. I have picture of that. I've seen the first celebration of Shemitah in Eretz Israel by the student of the Goren Aviner. And that's the nucleus of religious Zionism. Here, I think I exhausted my time, or the time exhausted me, and hopefully we'll go back to the topic again and again. But my purpose was, again, to give you some insight what is a mystical Messiah is. And if you go today to yeshiva and you say, oh, the prophet said this and this and that. Oh, you know, the war of Gaza, they will show you the door out. And as I said, they're so fearful of that they don't even learn the prophet anymore. So much. Not the religious part, the religious Zionism teach. I learned the prophet, but we never use it for any calculation. I never thought it's even possible. So here is two approaches, the mystical and the rabbinical Messiah. And when you now learn or read or see or hear somebody speaking, now you can frame it in your mind. And you can say, okay, now I hear you. It's nice, but I know what you're talking about. Any question?
That was fantastic, Rabbi. Very good. I really appreciate you mentioning the fact that when Mashiach comes, um, you'll know it when he's accomplished the six things that he needed to accomplish. I really like that. That removes all the speculation and the dates and the times and who could it be and this could be that guy. I like that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Stephen?
Yeah, thank you very much. Brilliant, lovely class. Um, I'm actually in the book recommended by his name anyways. Um, Stephen Bond. Anyways, I was just wondering. Um, I'm looking at the structure of the Kabbalistic tree um, in man or in us. It talks about the 31 nerves emanate the spinal cord. Um, can you can you give any indication on how we travel up to the spinal cord like a ladder to sort of I don't know, sort of be on a higher realm or what that actually means, just for starters, the 31 nerves that equates to the ladder um, in the sort of Kabbalistic tree sort of system. Yeah, that's basically my question. How you sort of basically the 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 spinal cord, from what I'm reading here, represents um, a pathway, and I just wondered how is it possible through prayer or reading or what have you. What's the first steps to take that that step up the ladder? That's it, really. Did you get that?
Steve, Stephen, I think if I understand your question is what kind of steps we need to take to bring in the Messiah?
Yeah. It's just
That's the only steps I mentioned. I didn't mention any step in prayer or the skin or the soul or the spine. I didn't talk about that.
I realize that.
Yes, by purpose, that's a different class.
Okay, we'll do that another time then. Yeah, we'll do it another time then. Sorry, I was just,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was just.
Your question is beautiful, and it relates to the story of Eden, and there is a skin, and the light skin, and the whole story of that because God made them clothes of skin, so when they came down on earth, so there is a real skin, and in heaven we had light skin, skin of light. That's a totally different, it has nothing to do with the
I apologize.
Messiah.
I apologize.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, but
Right.
it's on a different time we address that.
Sidetrack.
Uh,
Brilliant class. Thank you very much for everything
oh,
you've
it's a
spoken.
beautiful question,
Brilliant.
but it's
Not
not
relevant. So,
really related to the mystical Messiah.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, brilliant class.
Any other
Amazing.
question?
Anybody else? Okay, guys. We really hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Will,
yeah.
do you have something you wanted to say?
No, I'm good. I really appreciate you, Rabbi Aviner, for going through these classes. The way you've done it week to week has been really great because it's given us time to kind of digest these really big ideas. And I love the way how you bring it down to earth because people are just talking about the Messiah. And I don't know if you know this, Rabbi, but people are doing all sorts of calculations out there. There's all sorts of just a lot of stuff going on the internet. Rod, you probably see those headlines and stuff. You know, a lot of times I don't click on them, but I do see some things on my news feed and things like that. So I really appreciate the clarification here.
Yeah, that's
Also,
prompted me to do this thing,
yeah.
to show you how to face those, the attack, the abundance of these miscalculations.
It's brilliant class. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Brilliant.
Stay away from anyone who comes to you with a calculation, even if he has a long beard, and he looks like an angel with a Torah around him, and he speaks feebly. And you will be mesmerized, fall on the floor, clapping your hands, they cry. That's false.
I even got 3 emails from
Instead
someone who
you go,
claimed to be.
you open the prayer book, you read the Shmones Rabbi, and you have an idea about the Messiah is all about.
I've even received emails from people, actually 3, that said that they were the Messiah and explaining. I'm like, delete.
Yeah.
Just one more question. You just said that you're stopping for Thanksgiving. Are you saying that you in America it's this week that you're sitting down and you know, or are you talking about like it's a month of a holiday? Can you hear me all right?
No, it's Thursday,
So this Thursday you'll sit down and you have the turkey dinner and all the family gets together.
just like Norman Rockwell, Stephen. That's right.
All
Right,
right, okay.
Rod? Just like Norman Rockwell.
We do ours on the 25th of next month. but everyone's putting up trees and lights and everything now. It's just all regalia. You know, since entering into Judaism from 3 years ago, I don't really pay any attention to. My mind's on things.